is a Fox News alert, and just days after the deadly terror attacks in France, ISIS is now renewing its calls to followers to launch an attack right here in the United States. A new poll revealing that 65% of Americans believe that terror attacks as similar to the ones that took place in France could happen here within the next year.
I think there are sleeper cells not only in France, but certainly in other countries, and yes, even in our own.
It's this foreign fighter piece that disturbs me greatly because we don't have a good handle intelligence-wise who is on the ground.
So are we doing enough to protect the United States? Joining us now is security expert and founder of the Clarion project, Mauro. Ryan, what are we doing here at home to try to address this?
Well, a lot of it has to do with informants. You get someone like a Muslim in a mosque who sees something that's going on that frightens him, and then he goes to the FBI. Sometimes there's a prosecution that goes on, and then you strike a deal with the person that you're prosecuting so that they become an informant on their former colleagues. You can intercept communications, gain evidence from other prosecutions that lead you to new people. There's all these various methods, but civilians really need to step up. And that's because when we research a lot of these radicals, they're talking about it on Facebook, and they have hundreds of friends. You see this on Facebook, you need to report it or go to someone like myself or someone else that will report it for you.
Brian, I'm wondering if civilians are now increasingly becoming the first line of defense. It feels like police officers, and you talk to any of them around the country, they will say that they increasingly feel like they've been hamstrung by the administration and by new guidelines to prevent them from going into mosques, to prevent them from doing other things to try to stop terrorism.
That's definitely true, and I've had countless meetings with counter-terrorism personnel where they complain about the fact that we won't acknowledge the ideology, that they are afraid of the backlash that comes with having informants, because then you'll have major organizations that claim that the FBI is just making up the war on terror, that bash the FBI for what they do, and then that makes it harder for them to gain the allies within the Muslim community and also the non-Muslim community in order to achieve their objectives. In terms of training, one of the problems we've had is you've actually had Muslim Brotherhood supporters that advise the Department of Homeland Security cleanse the counterterrorism training guidelines so that you don't even learn that the Muslim Brotherhood, for example, exists in America.
Really? They've changed the training guidelines that our police officers and first responders around the United States get.
This was recommended changes as a result of an advisor to the Department of Homeland Security, and they were published.
Wow.
You can actually look online at our website and find them.
Let's talk about Gitmo. The president keeping his campaign pledge to close Gitmo. We hear, it seems that every week, more and more people being sent out of Gitmo back to their home countries or other countries. How concerned are you about that and the ability for those people to strike or encourage strikes back here at home?
Just look at the pattern of how many times these supposedly rehabilitated terrorists, as they're sometimes called when they go into programs in Saudi Arabia to learn a new life, end up back in the fold with the terrorists. So there's a pattern that is very disturbing to me. That's the worst option for handling them. But again, on the issue of civilians and needing to step up, one of the most frustrating things for me as a researcher to see is when I come in contact with someone who saw extremism on the internet and I say, well, why didn't you report it? They say, well, I'm sure that the FBI is scrolling through everyone's Facebook pages and they know about it.
And they can't possibly do all of that. So who do they call? I mean, they call their local cops, and their cops are going to say, wait a minute, I don't know what to do with this information.
Right, that's another problem because it is free speech, but you need people that are going to then go in and look at their friends on Facebook and have the time to do that. And honestly, when you talk to FBI personnel or local police, they just don't have the time to do that. So civilians need to step up.
Frightening. I want to ask you finally about the president not showing up for that unity march despite so many world leaders being there. What is your reaction to that?
Well, the optics are absolutely terrible. And the argument is that because the president goes around with such a large security detail that would disrupt the rally and take attention away from what's going on. You have so many world leaders there. I'm sure there's enough security. All of them are coming with their own security detail.
Well, including Benjamin Netanyahu and others, Angela Merkel. I'm sure that they had huge security details as well.
Yes, they are equally concerned about their lives as much as President Obama is.
And equally important in world affairs as well. Mauro, thank you so much for joining us. We'll talk to you again real soon.
Thank you.
Ainsley, what you got over there?
All right, thank you, Heather.